Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso and FG, bringing you another banger. Hey, man, I think you told me something about 100 degrees you text me?
Oh, no, more than that, man. You know, it's excessive heat warning out there going on right now. For the next 7-8 days, man, it's going to be really, really hot, over 100 degrees.
Damn. I mean, it's pretty hot right here in LA, but, you know, this is bearable heat, right?
Yeah, I was coming from east, man. It was 105, 106, man. It was hot.
Yeah, man, when I'm coming in from the north, you know, we get about 10 degrees hotter than LA, so that's all regular for us out here. For those who can't cope, don't come to LA, stay away from LA. We got enough people already here in LA.
No doubt.
Man, okay, so last week we talked about Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
I was doing some digging, man. The dude who allegedly killed Whitey Bulger, this dude stuck to the code thick and thin, thick and through. Like, you can't stick to the code any harder than this.
Right.
And I was thinking that you was going to appreciate him. But then at the same time, this guy was serving a life sentence in the federal penitentiary without parole. I mean, he's never coming home.
Yeah.
So in essence, he gave up his life. He gave up his freedom for the code of the streets.
No doubt, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, when they wrote the code, you know how no matter what people feel about them, when they wrote the book, when they wrote the rules, they were meant to be stuck by and stuck by. And this guy, he stuck by him 100%.
Now, check it out. This guy was a hitman for a faction of the New York Mafia in Boston. Mm-hmm. And he was working for, he would be the boss of Boston, although he was under the Genovese family in New York City. His boss ended up ratting on him.
Damn.
Which is crazy because his boss asked him to do these homicides, which he did. You know, in that life, when they tell you this is what you got to do, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's a photo of him, the boss, and the guy that allegedly killed Whitey Bulger. There's a photo of them in court. But what's crazy is that the boss tells on the worker.
Wow.
How does that? I mean, I don't understand how the guy who's running the show can become the informant on the workers.
Well, you know, that's where the disappointing part come in at me for that life. You know, for that life, you know what I mean? Man, you wrote the book. You know what I mean? You raised these guys to live by the codes and that you set forth. And then you go tell on the guy. That's the shit that really just burns me up because, you know what I mean? Don't, you know, just leave or just walk away or just do whatever you can. But that ain't the way to go when you're in that life, you know.
And what's crazy is that the federal authorities asked him, his last name is Geas, Geas. Mm-hmm. The federal authorities asked him, would you tell on your boss for a deal? He said, nah, I'm good. I ain't telling on nobody.
Oh, he kept it 100.
He kept it 100. He was offered to tell on his boss. The boss was hiring him and others to do murders. In fact, this guy committed a homicide against his boss's brother-in-law. That I guess the brother-in-law violated some sort of rule, but this guy stuck to the code so real, and I don't think you see that too often.
Nah, not no more, man. You really don't. You know, it's unfortunately, well, it's a double-edged sword depending on which angle. But I'm talking about in that life. It's unfortunate that you know, the shit go on like that.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, my question is, I know a lot of people and a lot of people have already told me this, like, you know, the street code, there is no such thing as a street code. The street code is dead. Nobody respects the code. Even the gangsters. The code is dead. There's no purpose. There's no need for the code. But when you have guys like this who end up giving their freedom for the rest of their lives, it kind of fuels that argument like there is no code, because at the end of the day, this guy got a life sentence.
No doubt. It definitely still is. You know, and for the people who are keeping the code, you would know anyway because they're keeping the code. You know what I mean? They not running around telling people they keeping the code. They just standing on it. You know, that's why a lot of people I see even coming to my on YouTube channels and say, man, you need to go get this person and interview him. You need to go get that person. Well, everybody don't do that. You know, everybody don't do interviews. Everybody don't do certain things. You know, they're sticking by their code. That's why you don't hear from them, you know. But the people who are sticking by the codes, man, I'm really suggest that they start to, you know, hang it up start to walk away, start to just live their life with the legacy that they have of being stuck by the code. Because the new shit that's going on nowadays, man, like you say, dudes telling on their mama, man, they giving up everything.
Now, I could understand about how he felt. I'm talking about Mr. Geas, Fotios, Geas, Geas. I can understand how he felt when he got word that Whitey Bulger was coming to the West Virginia penitentiary. He's like, Whitey Bulger the snitch?
Right.
Whitey Bulger the informant? Whitey Bulger the boss of all bosses who was working for the feds? What cell is he going to be in? Because people who have been told on, and you know this better than anybody else, has even more hatred.
I mean,
there's some regular people that don't like snitching. There's
right.
regular people that don't appreciate informants. But when you've been told on, it's something it's something in you.
No doubt,
right?
no doubt. It goes to the core of you. You know what I mean? And you stand on those principles even harder, man, because it happened to you. And so I'm just like you. I could just imagine when he heard, he was like, "What?" And almost like, "How dare they bring him here where I'm at?" You know what I mean? And he stood on that shit.
Yeah, man. And the feds have been taking a little bit of heat for letting the word get out there that Whitey Bulger was coming to the penitentiary. One of the BOP retired CO said that they should have did a better job. That there should have been a way where Whitey Bulger was transported there without anybody knowing. But even if no one knew he was getting there, at some point they're going to know he's here, right?
It doesn't really matter. I was going to say that. You got to understand that they do have inmates that work in R&D. You know what I mean? And when you coming through R&D, your name is on the list, your name is on the package for, they already know what cell you're going to be in, what unit you're going to be in before you even get there. You know what I mean? But without all that, somebody was going to see him and say, hey, that's Whitey.
Yeah.
So whether it took 12 hours or 12 days, it was going to happen. It's going to happen.
Well, one of the fact checks that I had from last week, I called the FBI agent who was Whitey Bulger's right-hand man. I called him Robert Conley, and his name is actually John Conley last week.
Oh, okay.
And John Conley's the FBI agent who ended up getting sent to the feds. He did about 20-something years, but then they released him out on medical release because he was nearing the end of his days. But I also found out that the other guy that's accused of killing Whitey Bulger, he's an Italian dude who is from the same family in Boston that Whitey Bulger used to inform against, because Whitey Bulger was from the Irish side.
Right.
He used to rat out the Italian side. So like it's very personal for these two guys, allegedly these two guys that went in the cell and did this to Whitey Bulger.
Oh, no doubt. They handled their business, but in actuality, in their world, they world was looking at them. They world saying, you got the call. He came to where you guys were at. Because he could have went somewhere else and some other guys would have got the call. Some other stand-up guys just as well. But these guys didn't waste no time. And, Whitey did a lot of wrong, man. You know what I mean? Allegedly he had, multiple people murdered, But then you turn around and be an FBI informant. Hey, man, 12 hours, I was hey, man, hey, they did that. I got to tip my hat to that world. And that the way they did it,
So you shouting out Fotios, Geas, and Paul de Colagero.
I got to, man. You know what I mean? Because they handled their business in that life.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people is against the life, but in reality, the life exists. And for that life, they handled that.
Yeah, man. I'm still kind of confused and perplexed why they would send Whitey Bulger to a federal penitentiary with these potential guys there that would represent a huge danger to Whitey Bulger. I'm sure the BOP knows this, right?
No doubt, but the BOP don't give a shit like people think they do. Once you give them up all that information, you do all that informing, and you do everything you did, they throw your ass right on out there. The state don't do you like that. You know what I mean? The state kind of protects you a little more. I do from my looking into it. But them feds, they'll set your ass out there, man. They knew where they was sending that man to.
Do you think the family of Whitey Bulger has a lawsuit against the BOP for not providing adequate protection?
I don't, because there's more people get killed in prison than people actually think. Until it's your people, you don't know. You know what I mean? But I get phone calls all the time. The homie got stabbed to death, you know, in his cell. The homie got stabbed on the yard. The homie passed away, you know. And it happens more than people think, you know.
Okay. I also want to apologize for calling Whitey Bulger Rusty Bulger. For some reason, and sometimes I say Rusty Bulger. But if you hear me say Rusty Bulger again, because I might do that, you know I'm referring to Whitey Bulger. I want to talk about this guy in Philadelphia, man, that was in a liquor store, minding his own business, about to pay for something, and then a guy comes in there to rob the store.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process of robbing the store, he pulls out a strap. The guy that's there at the cashier about to pay for something realizes, oh shit, my life is in danger. I got a strap on me. I'm about to blow this dude away, which he does.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves, and now the police are looking for him as if he did something wrong.
Oh, no doubt. You know, and they're gonna accuse him of, you know, and see, this is where the law comes in that I hate. You know, the guy was clearly getting robbed. The guy didn't know if his life was in danger. Guy didn't know if the guy who was robbing him was going to shoot him. You know, so he pulls out his heat and blasts the dude. You know what I mean? Now they calling him a suspect. You know, so you done went from victim to suspect in a matter of seconds because you was protecting yourself. And that's the shit I don't like about some of these laws. Because what the police are going to say is, no, you should have just let him rob you. And then called us, and we weren't going to do shit anyway, but you still should have took that process.
Well, I believe this is a perfect self-defense. And let me play a clip because even the news and the media are identifying this black man as a damn suspect, which is, I think it's just absolutely crazy. And I think it goes to the issue of, I think America has a hard time accepting the fact that black people can possess weapons for self-defense as well as everybody else. And whenever we see a black man with a gun in his hand, we think criminal.
No doubt. That's exactly how it is. And like I said, I hate, well, I don't want our listeners to always think that, like I said, I'm putting it black and white, but sometimes that's just what it is. You know what I mean? Because if you put a white guy in the same scenario, I bet they wasn't called him a suspect.
Not at all. Let me play this clip.
Investigation underway in North Philly, and police are releasing new surveillance video in hopes of catching a suspect who shot and killed a man last month. Take a look.
They're showing a little bit.
Police are looking for a man you see there in that Phillies jersey. Did you see him? He was at the top of your screen. They say the suspect was inside a store on the 2100 block of Diamond Street. And in the video, a man armed with a gun approaches and tries to rob the suspect. After a struggle, the suspect reached into his bag, pulled out a gun, and opened fire, killing the attempted robber. If you have any information, call police.
Did you hear what this news anchor guy said? Rob the suspect.
Rob the suspect. I was finna say that, man. Did I just hear what I thought I heard?
Rob the suspect. Now, I need to call this guy out. His name is Jason Martinez. He is the co-anchor at Fox 29 News in Philadelphia. That clip that I just played is a Fox 29 News clip. And this anchor actually called this black man that pretty much saved his own life.
Right.
A suspect.
Yeah, man, that's what they doing nowadays. They're going to get you on both ends.
I think that's borderline racist because at the end of the day, it's really about a black man possessing a weapon for self-defense where this goes all the way back to the Black Panther days in the 1960s up in Oakland here in L.A. where brothers were carrying shotguns and rifles legally and America had a problem with it.
Oh, no doubt. You know what I mean? Well, I'm going to tell you what the sad part about it is. The sad part, Alex, is we've been conditioned, you know what I mean, to know that this is how, you know, we're going to be treated. And we almost pass it off as normal, you know what I mean, when technically it's not. You know what I mean? And you know, people go out there and get situations and like I said, I know a guy shot a guy in his house, in his garage. You know, the guy was stealing something out of his garage and went to lunge at him when he went out in his garage. He shot the dude. Man, they drugged the homie through the mud. They didn't convict him, but I mean, he was on trial like he, you know, was at somebody's house robbing them. You know, so
they charged him.
Yeah, they charged him.
So he had to fight for his.
He had to fight for his life, man, and you know, and this is how we're conditioned to see things. In other areas of the world, in other parts of the country, you know, they're never arrested.
So did he get acquitted or did he get a lesser offense?
No, he got acquitted. You know, he took it all the way to trial, man. He had a couple jurors ride with him, you know, but just for him to have to fight like that, mortgage his house to even afford the lawyer, you know what I mean, and things of that nature, you know, it hurt him, you know.
Definitely. It reminds me of a case here in Los Angeles where a guy named Bre Tiesi shot and killed a rapper named Dollar at the Beverly Center back in like 2009. And they charged the dude with murder, even though he said that he felt threatened. He felt for his life. And he sat in the LA County jail for about 13 months. He turned down a 9-year deal. They offered him 9 years for killing the rapper Dollar. He turned it down and said, "Nah, I don't want that 9-year deal. We're going to trial." And he had a great attorney named Howard. What was Howard's last name? I can't remember Howard's last name right now. That was his defense attorney. And the prosecutor was Bobby Grace, the same guy that tried to prosecute Snoop Dogg back in '93. And Bre Tiesi was found not guilty.
Oh, okay.
But it took like a whole year of his life, and then the stress of it.
No doubt, and the crazy part is I would have took the 9.
You would have took most people would have.
I would have took the 9.
Yeah.
And sadly, because most of the time we not gonna get past that. You know what I mean? So I would have took the 9. And I'm glad he stood on his principles and became a free man, man.
Hey, his own lawyer said take the 9.
Right.
Because I was there. His lawyer said, "Hey, this is a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
You did kill a man."
Right.
And he wasn't armed, even though you're claiming self-defense. He said, "Nah, I'm a civilian."
Right.
And he stood on that, and he got found not guilty. And at the end of the trial, once all the evidence was presented, I felt that the defense attorney did a good job at possibly getting the jury to go with a not guilty, even though, you know, the family of Dollar, Roderick Burton, you know, they were crushed.
Yeah.
They were there. They were crushed. They were devastated.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, it's just black people aren't allowed to defend themselves with guns in America. That's what it is.
No doubt. It comes down to that. You know what I mean? And like I say, sadly to say, but black people do have a harder time fighting the same situations that other people walk out the station within 48 hours for.
Yeah, man. So we don't know who that guy is in the video in that North Philly liquor store that shot and killed the robber, man. But I hope that if he is arrested, it's just maybe he gets arrested by the Philadelphia police. They take him down to the station just to get a statement, just to get, you know, they have to close the case some kind of way. Because I'll be shocked if he gets charged. Would you be shocked if he gets charged, or because he's a black man?
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I just hope he land on his feet, you know, because, I mean, he was minding his business, man. They clearly see that. The news reporter saw that, man. He robs the you know what I mean? You know, he robs the suspect, you know, and that came out of his mouth. So, hey, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, shame on Fox 29 News and anchor Jason Martinez for calling this brother a suspect, man. This guy exercised his Second Amendment right and defended himself and preserved his life, man.
Man.
All right. Hey, I got to talk about this guy. I mean, I met this guy back in the day. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of respect for this guy. He's a hell of an entertainer. Nick Canon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think he's multi-talented. Mm-hmm. He does what a lot of people can't do. But he's also creating a lot of babies.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? We all know people that have multiple baby mamas. Mm-hmm. Most people might have 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. But we also know people that got 4 and 5 baby mamas.
Yeah.
I got a couple homies that got 10 kids. I got about, I know 3 homies that got 10 or 11 kids.
Me too, yeah.
And that's like by more than 3.
Yeah, no doubt.
But at some point, when does it become irresponsible? Now, the people we know, we don't know any better because we haven't really been taught. Maybe we didn't have good examples. We were having sex at a young age, getting people pregnant. But Nick Canon is a grown man. Mm-hmm. He is a successful man. He's a multimillionaire.
Right.
And he's just popping them, boom, 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 boom. Like he's doing it like this is what he wants to do,
right,
as opposed to these are the circumstances that created this mess.
Exactly.
So what's your whole take on, I believe he's got 8 children by 5 women. He's got 2 on the way right now. That's going to be 7 women. And he's got 2 with Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, I don't believe it's irresponsible because he can't afford to take care of them.
Okay.
I do believe that on the back end, it's going to hurt him when the bitterness sets in with these baby mamas and they get to, filing child support in different situations, and he can be out of a whole lot of money a month for all these kids. On another note, I don't know how true it is. Somebody had ran by me that he has some kind of illness, and whatever illness he has, the stem cells from these kids can help him. Now, like I said, I don't have no knowledge on that or no truth. I just heard somebody just over the weekend say that, but I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one, but that's a hell of an excuse to say I'm about to have a whole bunch of babies so I could use their cells for future research.
No doubt, and but like I say, somebody just threw that out there and I was listening. But if that's true, that's understandable. But have anybody interviewed him and asked him, hey, man, what's the thing up with all the kids?
I think most of the media is too scared to press a line on Nick Canon when it comes to these kids because he's really such a likable guy. He is he's not disrespectful. He's so talented in everything he does. So it's kind of hard to come down on him. But I would say it is irresponsible even though he could afford it, because one thing he can't do, he can't be a dad to 10 kids at the same time.
Especially in different households with different moms.
Correct. So some of these kids are going to get the short end of the stick when it comes to the presence of their dad that I don't believe money can replace. I don't think that the money is going to round out these kids into young girls or young men when he's on the road, when he's doing another movie, when he's doing a Wild 'N Out episode, when he's doing his podcast. His schedule is already challenging enough for him to be a dad to like 2 or 3 kids,
right?
Let alone 10 or 11 kids. So it doesn't matter how rich the guy is. I think those kids are going to end up getting less of a dad.
No, I agree with you 1,000,000% on that one, because I know how important it is for a father figure to be in your life, and I know how sad it is and cold it is for a father figure not to be in your life. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, man, you hit that nail on the head, and you're 1,000,000% right about that. But like I say, we seeing some of these celebrities with one child getting hit for $30,000, $40,000 a month in child support. If 5 baby mamas get to file in child support, now a good baby mama just let you take care of your kid. You know what I mean? Make sure he has what he needs, and of course, you know. But when they file that paperwork and the judge go and say they gonna get this much of your income times 5, that's a large number.
Well, I think a lot of these women are very cooperative with Mariah Carey, with Nick Canon. So, but who knows what could happen in the future? Arguments, disagreements, neglect. That could all set in and take this on a whole nother path. But you just made me think of Tyrese. He's on his 2nd divorce right now, and the woman that is divorcing him is asking for $30,000 a month, and
Dang.
he's telling the judge that's a little too much, Your Honor. Can we bring that down somewhat? What do you think about that? 20,000.
Do we have any kids with her?
Yes, I believe they have one.
It's excessive, man. And the thing about it is the crazy part about it is the judges don't take that into consideration. They take your income and your assets into consideration, and they come up with a number. And I do think it's sad that some of these entertainers that know that they're in this position, I can't say fall for the okie doke, because anybody can fall in love, but keep finding themselves in this situation where they just giving out, tens of thousands a month with the woman that they're not even, with anymore. It's a little sad.
Well, Nick Canon had 4 kids just in 2021.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I mean, he got to have an angle. It got to be something that he's, who does that? I mean, I understand you in a relationship and you having kids, but he having a lot of kids fast. It got to be something, Alex.
And in order to have 4 kids in the same year, that means you got to have 4 baby mamas. Actually, you
can have 2.
Yeah, because if you could have one in January,
yeah, and have another one around in November, October.
Yeah, that's possible. But I don't know what Nick Cannon's doing, but he's certainly trying to normalize this. And my concern is that we as a people already have a lot of dysfunctional families in our communities all across this country. And I think the message that he's putting out there is not a positive message for young brothers coming up that says, oh, man, Nick Cannon got a gang of kids, what's the big deal? I could do the same thing. And, we already have so many broken families and divorces and baby mamas that just the way he goes about it, it's like so normal and so cool to him. That's my issue that I got.
Nah, no doubt. And for the little homie that I got have 8 kids, and he's not rich. You know what I mean? Like you say, it's hard to put in time. It's hard to put in work. It's hard to be there day for day for these kids. You know what I mean? And when your presence is not there, and so I do think people should start taking into consideration. And I'm training my kids to, even look at me. You know what I mean? Don't have a bunch of kids, man. You know what I mean? Stay within your means, because you do want to give your kids all that you can give them. And when you have so many kids and you're not Nick Cannon, you know what I mean? It's a hard road, man, especially when these kids get to needing certain things and, it's a hard road, man.
What's the biggest challenge, man, being a father raising kids?
To me, being the biggest challenge is, especially when you have multiple kids like I have. I have 7, and I have 4 boys and 3 daughters. And statistically, it says that one is going to go to prison. And statistically, it says one is going to do this. The biggest challenge for me was trying to beat the statistics, And most of the time you have 4 boys, even back in the day, one of them's going to get drafted or 2 of them's going to get drafted. It's always statistics when it comes to multiple kids, but at the same time, trying to spread that love out, trying to be equal with everybody, even though you have different personalities. I don't treat you like this, or I treat your brother different because your brother has a different personality. You know what I mean? It's not across the board, and a lot of people raise their kids across the board. This is the rule for everybody. No, kids are different. So just because this is the rule for this kid may not be the rule. It might not be necessary for this kid. You know what I mean? So I think, spreading the love around, trying to be consistent in all their lives, and basically, like I say, just letting them know, proving your love to all of them, and that can get kind of hard,
Yeah, man, with 7 for sure, man. I got 3, and sometimes I feel overwhelmed. And sometimes I say to myself, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Man,
I don't even know how I raised all these kids. I don't even know how I afforded it. I don't even I'm surprised at myself. And I always feel like I could do better. I could be a better father or do something different just with 3. So I can't imagine with 7 or with Nick Cannon, he's going on 11 and 12. I just think at some point it becomes impossible, man. That money can replace the time and the one-on-one that you got to give.
No doubt, especially when you're still working, which Nick Canon is still working. If you were stacked up to the ceiling, and you all you did was be in your kid's life, every day is something different with the kids, because you didn't have to go punch a clock, because technically Nick Canon still does. And then I could understand it. But if you still punching the clock, you still traveling for work, you still out there grinding like he's grinding, no doubt. You basically, kids are being raised without you, to be honest with you.
Now, the difference between raising, you have 4 boys, 3 girls. What's the biggest difference raising boys and girls?
The biggest difference is the girls seem to do what they supposed to do. You know what I mean? All my girls, my oldest daughter, she's doing great. You know what I mean? My other daughter, she's in college. I have my baby daughter, she's a senior in high school on her way to college. The girls always do great to me. The boys, like you say, with the challenge of being a black man. The challenge of when they were younger, they grew up in the neighborhood a little bit. They got to understand what was the dynamics of the hood, And so I worry about my boys more than I worry about my daughters. You know, even though the love, you know, that daddy-daughter love is something spectacular, but you know, I worry about my boys more.
That's crazy, man, because I agree with you, too. I have 2 sons and 1 daughter, and my daughter's always doing what she needs to do. Mm-hmm. I give her a little bit of guidance, and boom, she takes off and does her thing. And I'm worried about my 2 boys. You know, when they walk out the door, I'm always like, hey, be safe. Watch your back. Protect each other, you know. And I'm always stressed out and concerned more about what my sons are gonna do and what their futures are. But my daughter, she gives me very little stress, man.
No doubt. Now I can say I do have 4 grown kids who's self-sufficient, take care of themselves. You know, my last 3, they're a lot easier, you know, because they had something to go by. They saw their older brothers. They seen how I act with them, and you know, and they just seen the life that what they want and don't want. I believe they're a little more well-rounded, just based because they had the education to see their older brothers and sisters, you know, learn from experience, so they didn't have to. Okay, you know, big bro told me don't go down that route, or you know what I mean. So, but it's definitely different. But I'm definitely ready to be done, Alex. Seems like I've been raising kids all my life. Damn.
But you ain't you don't plan on having any more kids, and like you're done with having kids.
Oh no, man, I had grandsons, man. Yeah. So you know, I'm back just this next Saturday, man. I'm gonna be at a 7-year-old football game, you know, in LA at 9 in the morning. You know what I mean, watching my grandsons play. So it's about the grandkids now, man. You know, and trying to be a like you say, a role model to them. You know,
your youngest is your boy that's like 19, 20, right?
Yeah, he's 19, yeah.
And that's the one that's in the video in the back seat when you get out the halfway house when you come home from the feds.
Exactly. And he's growing up to be a fine young man, you know.
Yeah, man. That's the I believe that's the first video you put out on your channel.
Exactly, very first video, man.
And that little boy in the back seat that was crying when he saw you, he's all grown now.
All grown, man. 6'4", 6'5", man.
I know, and he seems to be doing good. I saw the video you guys did on your channel, and dude is sharp.
Yeah, he's cool. He's working, going to school, man, and he actually wants to get into law, corporate law, you know, and so he got some things that he want to do in life, man, to show his charisma, show his smarts, man.
My question is, he was at the age, I guess when you came home from prison, he was just coming to those ages like 10, 11, 12, 13.
I called him.
So you was able to get on top of him, right?
I called him, not to mention geographics. You know, where he was raised at was different from when my older kids were raised at. You know, my older kids were raised right there in the hood for up until they were a certain age, but they went to elementary in the hood. They knew what a Crip in the blood was, you know, opposed to my younger kids. You know, they grew up in a community to where it was none of that. You know what I mean? So they experienced a little racism a little bit, but no gang violence. You know what I mean? So they were able to, you know, not be deterred, you know, while learning. You know what I mean? They didn't have to go through the gang shit to, you know, they were able to be them and focus on the education and shit like that. So it is a difference when you talk about raising kids in different areas, Alex.
No doubt. And some of these kids that do come from better areas is not always a guarantee that your life is better. I know that does. I mean, removing your kids out of the hood, out of the ghetto, into another environment, into a suburban environment, does have its perks. But at the same time, there's kids in these suburban environments that are doing drugs.
Oh my God!
Like they got way more time to be doing recreational drugs, and you know, I'm always worried about when my kids meet these people that live on the outskirts.
No doubt, no doubt. Up the hill, you know, the kids up the hill is, you know, it's. I heard my kids in high school say they seen drugs in high school, Alice, that I haven't seen to this day. I've never seen angel dust. You know, I've never seen certain drugs, LSDs. You know, my kids were coming home and like these rich white kids, the white kids with the money per se, the ones who's driving, you know, the Teslas to school and stuff like, these are the kids with the drugs.
Yeah.
You know, so they wasn't getting shot at, but it was other, you know, elements that they had to, you know, try to maneuver around in order to be successful. But yeah, man.
And this is going to be a huge challenge for Nick Canon because he's got different baby mamas and they all have their own style of parenting, I'm sure. The latest chick that have a baby by him is a model named Bre Tiesi. and she just divorced NFL quarterback Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel, yeah, Mr. Football, yeah, that didn't do shit.
He didn't turn out to really.
No.
Actually, he's out of the league right now, right?
He might be in some European league or somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that this chick was like, all right, this dude is a bust. I'm divorced. She's filed for divorce.
Yeah.
With Johnny Manziel. He was the shit in college though.
Man, he was a beast. You know what I mean? But I think he was so fucking arrogant that I believe that carried over instead of, okay, I'm arrogant here, but now let me humble myself and go learn the NFL, But I was wondering where was Nick getting these women from? How did you just go, Alex, just be honest with you, man. It take years to know somebody, man. You know what I mean? And even then, sometimes you don't. So it seemed like when are you meeting these women? You just, hey, let's have a baby. What's going on? What's your name again?
Well, look, Johnny Manziel. Well, she just divorced Johnny Manziel in 2021, or 2020 or 2021. He's having a baby, Nick Canon, with this woman in 2022. So, there's some overlap. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt, but at the same time, it's funny how, I bet she wouldn't go have no kids by, another regular guy that she meet. You know what I mean? But it's funny how these women are quick to, somebody with money, somebody that's successful, man, they're just, so at the end of the day, is it any women that turn Nick down and say, oh, no, bro, I'm not just going to have my kid just to have some kids. I want my father to be in my, have you got turned down, bro? Because somebody wanted some moral decency for their kids to have a father every day in the house, and so sometimes we got to look at the woman as well.
Yeah, I'm shocked at all these women that are willing to have babies by him because they know he's just going to go on to another woman probably and have another kid, and there's going to be a level of neglect there. But yeah, this particular chick, she seems like she just messing with the celebrities. She just messing with people with money. And I looked her up. She is very attractive. So, these are the types of women that I guess go from one celebrity to the next celebrity. She's not really known for anything but modeling.
Right.
So she just had Nick's eighth kid, and there's 2 more on the way. And
Well, how do you explain that to the kid when they're 20 years old?
Hey, all these kids are gonna be grown and they're gonna have a story to tell.
Yeah, but some of them not gonna approve of it though. Some of these kids are gonna grow up, being raised right, but at the same time they're gonna be like, hold on, why was my dad never around, or what was that? Then they come back and be like, hold on, you a baby mama 8, and you felt that was cool. It's going to be some kids, Alex, that's not going to agree with, I've had arguments with my kids because they don't know all the dynamics of certain situations, you know what I mean? With, because I have an ex-wife and a baby mama, you know what I mean? So they don't know, I don't tell them, you know what I mean? My whole thing is I'm never going to, speak bad about, none of my kids' mom at all, ever. But then when they grow up, I'm like, damn, well, why did y'all break up? You know what I mean? And they be wanting to know answers to shit. Like I say, these kids are going to want some answers when they grow up,
I think there might be a little bit of resentment coming from some of the kids.
I believe so. That's basically the point I'm making. Yeah. I believe, like, damn, mama, damn. You know what I mean? So.
But some kids also are very understanding and are very accepting, too, of their parents' shortcomings. So you might have a mixed reaction from different kids. Some kids are going to be resentful, and some kids are going to be like, hey, my dad, Nick Canon, can do no wrong,
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, I just wish that people talk more about, the importance of the black family and, trying to limit your baby mamas. I don't want to be sounding all judgmental, but, we've come a long way, and we've learned and we figured out the importance of a stable family. And it doesn't seem like our current generation, especially with social media, really puts any weight to that at all. I just see some like the baby mamas and all of that is just like expounding. It's just accelerating. I don't even hear nobody talking about family really.
Man, that's the sad part, And if you go back to, the music that we grew up on in the 70s, they talked about love, they talked about devotion, they talked about family. You don't have that no more, so and it's so many people that's so scared to get married, You know what I mean? Because technically, if something was to happen where I wasn't married, I wouldn't do it again.
Is that right?
What I mean? I wouldn't do it again.
You would never get married
I
again?
would never get married again.
Why not?
I'm just not. It just wouldn't be for me based on, the circumstances.
So you don't mind being 70, 75, 80 years old, living at home alone with nobody there?
Well, that don't mean you're going to be lonely at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So
well, who's going to ride with you that old unless somebody's been with you from the beginning?
Oh, you can find that. You saying you don't think you can find love at this age in your life?
Well, at the age I'm at now, but not at like 70.
No, I'm saying if I was to end up not married now, I wouldn't remarry again. But at 70, the same person that will probably ride with you when you meet them next week, could ride with you for the next 20, 30, 40 years. You don't have to have a piece of paper to say that y'all love each other.
But if that person is so down to ride with me at that age, that person's probably already taken.
Nah, not for us, man. It's a lot of women out there it's a little different. It's a lot of women out there that's looking for guys like us, and we're married. And it's a lot of women out there. I believe it's easier for us than it is a woman. But my point is, in order to have love, you don't have to have marriage, though. You know what I mean? You do. You agree with me on that or no?
Yeah, you don't have to have marriage to have love, but I think at a certain age, maybe marriage is not the best option, because to me, marriage is important in building a family.
Right.
But if you're at a certain age, like where we're at, and let's say something happens where we're not married again, I could understand not being married. But not being married means you don't really have a full commitment with that person to ride with you. It's so easy to just say, all right, I'm gonna stop seeing you. It's so easy to break up. It's harder to break up when you're married. It's harder to break up when you got a house together. It's harder to break up when you own shit together. But if you just living a bachelor life as a 60, 70-year-old man, it's so easy for that revolving door of women to come in and out of your life, and then you end up with nobody.
Well, I don't look at it like that. I do look at it like, most of the women we meet, they're going to have some shit too. So they may rent their house out or do that. They're going to have something on their own that they got as well, And when they come in and, whoever house we move in and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I know a lot of people that's been together for 30, 40 years. You don't know they're not really married, but they really not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like you say, they haven't walked away. They haven't left. They haven't. Sometimes when you find somebody that really truly love you, they don't just walk away like that. I believe that wholeheartedly,
Also, you're not mentioning that if you were going to be single again, most likely the women in your lives, probably my lives too, would be younger. We probably date women that are 15 years younger than us, because there's a whole lot of women out there that like older guys.
You know what? Not me. You know what I mean? I guess I could find somebody equally yoked, no doubt. You know what I mean? But at the same time, Alex, I ain't gonna lie, never dated younger, because like I said, I lost my family at a young age. So I always needed older women to be around for the maturity, for the, things that I needed. When I was 19, what was a 19-year-old gonna feed me, teach me, show me, so I've always been around older women. So I wouldn't go too younger for me. That's just a preference on my end. But it's definitely some women out there that'll love you to death, and you don't have to be married to them.
Oh yeah, I already know, man. When I'm walking around town as a married man, I can see all the women already interested in me. It's it's crazy.
Oh, no doubt.
I tell my wife all the time, and I can get like 3 wives right now if I wanted to. But I think I would get married again if the opportunity presented itself, just to make a strong long-term commitment. Somebody that's going to be there where I don't have to worry about them coming in and out. Mm-hmm. I think that marriage it solidifies the commitment. But all right, man. We wish Nick Cannon's kids much success, and we hope they all work it out.
No doubt.
We won't know until about 10, 15 years from now. But good luck to all those kids. Hey, George Foreman just got hit with a sexual assault. Guess from how long ago though?
Man, that shit was so disappointing, man. How long was it ago?
Like around the same time Bill Cosby's case. But we got to tell everybody this is a civil case. It ain't criminal. So this is just about money.
Okay. See, I thought it was a criminal case.
Nah. There's no police investigation. There's no authorities looking into this. This is just a lawsuit filed by 2 anonymous chicks against George Foreman. And George Foreman is currently 73 years old.
Well, from the report I seen, it said that he was in his 20s. So even if he was 29, Alex, that's 40 years ago, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of over it. You know, not to minimize women's the victims of sexual assault. I understand not reporting something when it happens. I understand maybe letting a year or two go by, but at some point we need to have a statute of limitations on this, because George Foreman is too old of a man to go through the stresses of a lawsuit, just like Bill Cosby was 45, 50 years later. Am I wrong to just say, hey, we got to have a statute of limitations on these types of sexual allegations in civil court?
No, you're not wrong totally, man. And I know there's women out there that's even like, damn, y'all really gonna do this 40 years later? You know, and shit don't make no sense, man. And like I said, I'm not showing empathy to the people that it may have allegedly happened to. But, you know, to come 40 years later, man, and talk about this shit is to me, I don't like it at all, man.
Now, my issue is that I don't believe there's ever been any cases against George Foreman, like where there's been a pattern of trying to put a case on him and keep trying. This just came out of anywhere, came out of nowhere, just came out of the sky, you know, as this man is in his mid-70s. So that's where I have the issue, because similarly, what's his name? The singer that's in prison now.
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly, a lot of his victims are coming after the fact too, but this is not new information. They've been trying to put case on R. Kelly for 20-something years.
No doubt. He has history of this shit.
Yeah, there's a long history of women trying to explain what this guy has done to them. And now, finally, like 20-something years later, he's in prison. He's actually in prison on one case, and he's on trial on another case, right? I think one's a state case, one's a Fed case. But in terms of these, now that's criminal case, though. But this case against George Foreman, the civil case, I'm just a little disappointed that our court systems allow this to happen. And I think there needs to be something done about these. I don't want to say it's frivolous lawsuit, because it may have happened. My question is, why in 2022 are you filing this lawsuit? Why so long? Why not in 2020 or 2015, or why not in 1990? You know, why now?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, something opened up in the law books that said you can go back, and I believe it was a statute of limitations, and I believe they took that off.
Yeah.
So I believe that's why people are coming forth now. But at the end of the day, you basically coming for some money. So what I'm hoping is that these jurors and judges see it for just exactly what it is, you know what I mean, and don't go over top. If he was to lose, don't go over the top with the rewards, so people can start cutting this shit out. Like, you know, it's not even worth it. You know what I mean? You know, so like you said, you spoke to me one time. You said some people can sue you for almost anything. But it's like, you know, winning this suit, you know, and getting rewarded some money for it. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, it's not excessive.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can file a frivolous lawsuit, but at the end of the day, it doesn't guarantee you're going to win. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think the Me Too movement from a couple of years ago had some policy changes take place where people can now file some civil cases from back in the day. But, yeah, this is crazy, man. We'll stay on top of this George Foreman case and let you guys know what's going on with it. Lastly, man, before I let you go, remember that DA in Fulton County, Tanny Willis?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Is it Tanny Willis?
No, I thought it was
Tanny Willis, something.
Yeah.
Let me pull up her name.
On that. Yeah.
Well, she promised us some more RICO cases in the state of Georgia.
She definitely did.
And she prosecuted this gang that just came out in 2016, according to their information, called the Drug Rich Gang, that had been doing some home invasions, some robberies, and a whole bunch of nonsense. But guess how many murders are in this indictment? There's 0 murders.
0 murders.
Yeah, 0 murders in this RICO indictment. So,
but it's the celebrities involved.
There's a football player,
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah,
I remember he came out of college. I was hoping we got him. He good too. He pretty good. But he was allegedly a victim in a robbery, home robbery. You know, and there was a couple other celebrities too. I forgot their name.
Soccer player,
and somebody else they named.
Yeah. Let me play this clip real quick of the DA talking a whole lot of mess because she's a new DA, and I think she's trying to like become political. But listen to this.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Today is another great day in Fulton County, another great day of crime fighting. We are here today to just let the public know that we are continuing our mission to target gangs, as we believe it is our #1 public safety deterrent crisis that we're in. I have to acknowledge the two men that are before me before I even start. This is the great Detective Needham and the great Detective Davidson from Sandy Springs Police Department. This was a collaboration, but you always have to acknowledge those that are on the front line working really hard to get things done. And these two gentlemen have done just an excellent job. What today's indictment is about is the Drug Rich Gang, which is a hybrid gang, and it started back in 2016. That's how far we can document this gang existing. We know that it is a gang that primarily actually exists out of DeKalb County, the Stone Mountain and the Tucker area. But as we know, crime and criminals have no boundaries, and they found their way into my county, Fulton County. I have a message today that you will hear repeated time and time again. If you thought Fulton was a good county to bring your crime to bring your violence to, you are wrong, and you are going to suffer consequences. And today is the start of some of those consequences. This gang, as I mentioned, is a hybrid gang. It does include members of the Gangster Disciples, the Crips, and the Bloods. We know that here in Atlanta, Georgia, that hybrid gangs are something that we regularly see. We know that this gang does have some identifiers that connects it together. They use things like prescription bottles.
All right, so she made her point. That's DA Fannie Willis out of Fulton County, and I think she's actually talking a little insensitive about crime. She's thinking like she's talking like the way that Daryl Gates used to talk in the '80s. We're gonna round up a whole bunch of niggas. We're gonna throw them all in jail and throw away the key. And we don't talk like that in LA anymore.
You know what? I didn't take it as that though, Alex. You know what I mean? I take it if dudes out there fucking up, man. You know, like I say, you know, I've been in them streets, so I know the consequences of what comes with them. You know, when you out there doing dirt, you know, and fucking up, it's consequences that comes with it. You know, and to me, I mean, I didn't take it as that. I mean, yeah, she talking a little shit, but you know, if she sound passive, that might not convince dudes. You know what I mean? If she sound confident, bring that shit to Fulton County, you know, I'ma holler at you. You know, she's basically just, she's doing her job. I mean, just to be honest with you.
Yeah, but she's talking about the solution to the problem in Fulton County is just to arrest as many people as possible and put them in prison to solve the problem. And we tried that in LA, and the police chiefs and the mayors and the DAs years ago realized you're not going to arrest your way out this problem. We got to throw programs. We got to have summer night lights. We got to have resources. We got to have grid. We got to do more than just arrest people and put them in prison. And that's all she's talking about. She's just talking about, we're going to arrest all y'all. You come to Fulton County, y'all going to jail. And that's not the solution to the problems that cause kids to go run up in your house and steal some shit. You know, we got to figure out what are the economic issues in Fulton County that's causing these kids to want to do this. And she don't seem to be interested in any of that stuff at all.
I mean, I totally agree on what you on the programs and stuff like that. But once they get to the point, though, that they running up in people's houses and shit and they doing dirt and putting in work, and then it's a whole different ball game. You know, you can't have empathy on dudes who made a decision that I'm gonna be a gangster. You know what I mean? The consequences come where they come. You know, and she just on the other side of the fence of trying to keep shit, you know, because I wouldn't want no young motherfuckers running up in my house either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Robbing me. You know what I mean? You know, and so I mean, I look at it both ways. I totally agree with you on before they even get there. Where are the programs? Where's the guidance? Where's the, you know, the rehabilitation? No, I got you on that 100%. But once they get past that, and these dudes jumping out with AR-15s and running up in people's houses and home invasion robberies and, you know, stuff like that, I mean, it's a prison out there for their ass, you know.
Definitely. Calvin Ridley, as you mentioned, the wide receiver for the Falcons, I guess he was a victim in this. Mm-hmm. The other four known people was Brad Guzan. He's a goalkeeper for Atlanta United. Mario Hampton from the reality star on the Housewives of Atlanta, and Brittany Mealy a social media star who has a child with Future. So I guess these are victims, according to Fannie Willis. And I feel like this is a little weak case because nobody's shot. Nobody. When I read an indictment on a RICO case, I want to hear about shootings, murders, because the RICO is supposed to be reserved for the worst of the worst.
Oh no,
the highest of all types of crimes: racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations. There's nobody's really physically
they doing
hurt.
some little flocking, basically some home invasion,
Yeah.
which like I said, I ain't gonna call it little. Let me take that back. You know, they are serious crimes, but like you said, they throwing that RICO in there, they throwing that conspiracy in there, they throwing that extra terms in there that's gonna rack up a bunch of time. You know, and these can be some kids that go to prison once and be okay after that. You know, they gonna try to throw the book at these dudes, you know. But they also robbing celebrities. Don't forget about that part. And when they get to robbing these high tax paying people in they county, you know, people get them threatened and start selling these $1 million homes and move to somewhere else, you know, that make law enforcement, you know, do a little extra on their job. You know, so we're gonna see how it fold out. They may not end up as much time as people might think, you know. It could be a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors as far as all the shit she talking. That might be why she talking like that, you know. So we definitely gonna stay on top of the case and see what how they come out.
Well, she's got 26 people arrested in this RICO case, and you know, I was recently informed that some of these 26 people showed up in a video on a guy's YouTube channel about 6 months ago. Guess whose channel? Some of these guys popped up on, man.
Who's that?
Miko Worldwide.
Wow.
This is Miko Worldwide. He did a whole video on the drug rich gang back in early 2022, and man, the comments going crazy on his video. They're saying, "Oh, Miko got these people indicted." So yeah, of these 26 people, I don't know how many of them are in Miko's video, but again, this goes back to my point about these people doing these hood vlogs. You know, I know it's the gang members' ultimate responsibility of how they represent themselves on camera, but at the same time, these hood vloggers are inciting these guys to, hey, pull those guns out. Hey, flash those weapons. It'll help me get more views. You know, I'm chasing this clout. I'm trying to get to 100,000.
No doubt.
And look, these guys are popping up on a RICO indictment in Fulton County. Some of these guys that are in his drug rich video, according to some information that was sent to me, man.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, for example, what's his name? Miko said that this vlog, this is a comment by Miko Worldwide. This vlog absolutely was not involved in any way with the indictment or case against the Get Rich Gang, the Drug Rich Gang. The vlog, and in fact, no vlog from this channel has ever been used in court, mentioned in court, or used to indict anyone from this gang or any other gang or artist. Nobody from this gang ever mentioned or stated anything pertaining to any specific Fulton County issues. So he's already trying to get in front of it, saying that this video has nothing to do with it, but it's too early to even make these claims.
Make that claim.
Yeah, you don't even know if Tanny Willis has went through this video, identified people, you know, and used it for identification purposes.
I'm almost certain she did, whether she listed as evidence or not. It may come up in the evidentiary hearings that this is part of some evidence that these guys, you know, are from this gang. So even if it's just that, not them doing nothing crazy, but just saying, you know, hey, this the drug rich gang, that's enough sometimes to identify you as a member of that gang.
Yeah, there's no doubt if she's doing, the Fulton County DA is doing a RICO against the drug rich gang, and this guy has a video of all these dudes pulling out weapons and doing all kind of crazy shit on the video, she has this in her possession.
No doubt.
There's no doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
And she probably has a list of everybody that's in this video, and we'll find out shortly the specific people that are in this video that Miko did that are mentioned in the indictment. And I guess we'll leave it on that note, man. Any final thoughts?
Nah, man. I just want to keep the George Foreman. I want to keep track on that. I want to keep track on this. Let's just keep track on the things we talked about and make sure we come back and deliver some more information about these cases and stuff, man, because I'm interested to hear how they plan out.
Yeah, man. George Foreman is one of my favorite boxers, man. Even though he got knocked out by Muhammad Ali in Africa, but other than that, man, this dude, he was a beast. He was the Mike Tyson of the early 70s.
Yeah, he was whooping ass back then.
Yeah, go back and look at some of those old videos if you're not familiar with George Foreman's boxing career, man. He knocked out Joe Frazier.
Damn.
He knocked out Ken Norton, and these are two dudes who beat Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And he knocked both of them out. But all right, man. Just tap in with FG at FGeneral1 on Instagram. Make sure you hit his YouTube channel, FG Unleash. Tap in with my YouTube channel, Street TV, and make sure you follow us on all podcast platforms. We're on Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeart, and leave us a comment and review. And thanks for listening to another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.